Hello, and welcome to Smart Impressions. I'm Rachel Muleman, your host, and we are going to be unlocking business relationships one contact at a time. Today's topic is a big one because we are on this overdrive. We are constantly going, handling families and lives and relationships. And there's one big issue with that is that we're still trying to maintain our work environment. What's happening is people are getting massive burnout. They are unhappy with that work-life balance, and they are leaving organizations, which are a huge cost to any organization. So if you're feeling that pain, you're going to love this show today. We got the owner founder of Reset, Aakanksha Tangri. Thank you so much for joining me today to talk all about mental health and well-being in the office.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for having me. It's a topic I'm really passionate about, and I can't wait to dig in.
Awesome. Well, this is the time to do it. We have only 15 minutes on the clock. Hate to make it short and sweet, but I really want to make sure everyone listening really is aware of this problem, right? So how did you get into this?
Well, it actually stems from my own experiences. I was a political journalist in New York and then later on in Toronto, and I was constantly on the road. I was working long hours. I did not have the workplace support for my own mental health or even any sort of nascent awareness about what I was feeling, that I was burnt out. I was constantly stressed. It took a physical toll on my body. I got really sick, and then I decided to quit my job and I moved back to Dubai. And that's when I really started digging in and actually, went to therapy, realized what was happening to me, and actually understood that if, there were proactive measures in place, I wouldn't have to reach a point of crisis before I actually got support. And that's how the idea of Reset started, so that organizations and employees don't have to reach that critical point before they can get support for their well-being and actually be stakeholders in their own journey.
Well, I guess every passion project starts with the individual journey. And so thank you for sharing that. I really want to get into, since you've been doing this and helping businesses, where is this gap? What is happening inside of businesses that you're seeing in the Middle East that people are getting that burnout and not feeling, is it being not supported by the leadership? Where are some of the problem areas that you're finding?
I think more often than not, what we've noticed is that organizations have a reactive approach to mental health and employee well-being instead of proactive. So you're only getting around to doing something when something goes really wrong or you notice your best employees leaving. Whereas what organizations need to do is build well-being into the culture and the fabric of the company. And I think the other thing, when organizations do have well-being initiatives, it's more often than not a blanket one-size-fits approach, instead of actually listening and understanding what the areas of concerns are for your team, areas of opportunity and growth, and what's missing in the organization. So that's why for us at Reset, what we specialize in and what we actually pride ourselves in is actually providing tailored well-being programs for organizations across professional hierarchies, so that you're actually, hitting the exact areas that you need to, and you're listening to what your employees want and then working from there. And I think the last thing is what we often realize is that leaders, they often think that well-being in an organization is a bottom-up approach, sure, but it also needs to be a top-down approach. They need to understand their own role, that, and the role their leadership has on well-being in the organization and on the company's bottom line. Because what they also don't understand is that poor employee well-being will affect your bottom line. And also they think that it's a nice to have and not an essential. And I think overall, I do want to say that, there's so much onus on leadership, yes, but leaders also need to look after their own well-being. And that's something we do as well, work with them. So I think those are the key areas that I typically notice within the GCC.
Well, I think in the last decade, the Middle East has been more open to wellness conversation. And you can see just from conversation online to topics, people are very starting to focus on this, right? Because it's not just it's their health at the end of the day. This is mental health, and I love, so we've interviewed some other people about this mental health space. People are now going independently and finding out what they can do to help their own mental health, right? With all this pressure around us, with all this social media that's causing all this ruckus. And now it's really that shift to now it's about leaders taking the driver's seat and doing something about it. So the leaders that are listening, I want to help you with some of the key red flags that Aakanksha has to look out for. So how would you know if like you're having like that productivity kind of reduction from a staff member, or if they're not happy, they could put on a fake smile. So how do you really help people that way?
So one thing, if your employees aren't happy, you're going to notice it. There will be little signs there, right? But one is increased absenteeism. If you see a lot of your best employees taking more time off, sick days, not performing at their peak, you'll notice the little mistakes in emails that they send or PowerPoint, whatever it is, any, out of character behavior where they are, things are slipping through the cracks for them within your teams. One of the most glaring signs is you see your best employees leaving, because especially in a competitive market like the UAE that's attracting so much global talent, and it's become a hub for innovation and growth, you need to be able to attract and retain your best talent. And it is a sort of, I would say, a competitive advantage now. So if you see your best employees leaving, that's one of the most glaring signs. And I think one thing for leaders is we're so used to working around the clock, but if you see your employees sending emails at odd hours, or like 2 a.m. you're getting a message from them going like, here's the project, or that's becoming more frequent, I can bet you they're overworked, they are burnt out, they're running on very little sleep. That's going to impact their engagement, their morale, their productivity, and that's going to have a ripple effect within the teams and within the larger organization. And one thing you brought up is like, how do you know how your employees really feel? We're so passionate about helping make the UAE the #1 country in the world when it comes to citizen well-being. And we've created a lot of free resources for organizations to actually be able to maximize employee potential and their own productivity, and even for leaders. So we have a staff well-being assessment that we've put together. It's a anonymous 5-minute questionnaire at max that you can send out and actually get data points, like very specific data points within teams, within the organization, about what the areas of concern are, how your employees are actually, what they're facing, what they're thinking, how they're actually doing. You can gauge their sentiment towards the organization, and that'll allow you to build very specific strategies and to actually, close that gap.
I love that. So is that something that the listeners can take or test out? So that's definitely a link we're going to share below this session so that everyone can have access to that. That's a great thing, a great tool. So I appreciate that. At least so you can, my mind goes into this whole thing of, what about this role, and how does their problems vary based on the actual deliverables for the organization? But I guess if you're asking everybody to, find out and uncover where their challenges are, you could see kind of trends. And maybe that's where you like strategically can start working on how to problem solve per category of problem area, right? Is that, okay.
I think that's definitely it. And one thing is we've also, so the staff wellbeing assessment is one part. We also have a leadership assessment where leaders can actually introspect and reflect and understand where they need support themselves, right? So we have a leadership assessment as well that leaders can take on their own time. Again, everything we've created 5 minutes or less, because we realize people are so busy, and it's one of those things we don't want you to think about too much. It's something that should come naturally. So we've created a leadership assessment as well that we can share the link, and leaders can take it and actually understand what exactly their leadership style is, how that might be impacting the team, and where they need to improve. And once they take that assessment, along with it, they're going to get free strategies as well that they can start implementing in their daily lives.
Cool. And I would assume that people that are having a difficulty with work-life balance, or like that are, working too hard, having that burnout, right? Those are probably people that, I mean, have leaders that are suffering from the same thing. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of the culture within the organization comes from the leadership. So that's why for us, it's important, when we're providing well-being support and well-being programs, it's a bottom-up as well as a top-down approach, because psychological safety within the organization is set from the leadership. So we've been actually, it's quite interesting. My team and I were talking, a lot of the requests we're getting in right now are for leadership to learn about the basics of psychological safety, how to implement that within the organization, and make sure that it resonates with everyone and that it's something that comes very naturally to them. So we're doing a lot of training around psychological safety, on effective communication, something as simple as giving effective performance reviews, and optimizing your employees, your team's potential as well.
I love that. Psychological safety. I always say, like, if I could dream, the perfect organization would have a therapist or someone, just someone to talk to, someone that has the knowledge and skills that they can actually advise. Someone could just get out the stuff that stresses us out, and dealing, there's this whole like ecosystem that we have in our society where we're not learning skills, or at least the past generation didn't. Now the newer generation is learning how to deal with emotions, how to deal with, communication. And even with that, there's a huge difference between what we learned in our, last 40 years on the planet, or 30 years, however old you are, and then what the new age young kids are, the Gen Zs, what they're learning and the challenges they're embracing. So I just, if you are interested in helping yourself, your actual staff, and really kind of retaining them for a longer progress of success, I highly recommend, looking at something like this. It takes literally minutes to implement, to understand where is that threshold, what's that barometer, of where people are in your organization, because sometimes people they're in denial. They're not even aware. They're so caught up in the day-to-day, right? So break free. This is your chance. This is a show that's going to give you a moment to think, how are you doing? And do you want to change anything for tomorrow and have that positive influence? So for our listeners that want to make those changes, I want to actually invite you, Aakanksha, could you give us 3 tips with the last few minutes we got that they can really implement in their organization, actionable steps today, tomorrow, and really can see a reduction of that burnout within their team, within their self, and really see some of those positive results in their organization you mentioned?
My tip number 1 would be to actually listen to your employees, and that's where the staff wellbeing assessment can help. Just listen to them and understand what they actually want within the organization. Wellbeing programs, initiatives don't have to be overwhelming. It can be, it costs, our wellbeing programs cost less than a cup of coffee per employee per month. Like, it's literally that simple. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. Start by listening to them. Take a minute to assess what your own areas of challenges are, where you want to improve, what you want your legacy to be as a leader. How do you want people to remember you? What is your North Star? I think that's one thing. And the other is start simple. Start with a 60-minute well-being session. It can be as simple as that, and get the ball rolling. Don't overcomplicate it. If you need help, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to sit with you and help you get started, and just actually understand what you want your legacy to be. And the one last thing I do want to say is employee attrition is such a huge challenge, and that has so many effects across the organization, especially on your bottom line. What people don't understand is how much employee attrition costs their organization. So to put it into perspective, replacing an employee is almost 50 to 60% of their annual salary. And that's just one employee, right? So if you actually want to understand and look at what the numbers are, we've put together an employee attrition calculator and how that impacts your bottom line will take you 2 to 3 minutes to fill out, and you will actually be able to quantify what losing your best employees looks like in your organization, what burnout is costing you, what stress is costing you, how that's impacting your productivity. So that's just something I want leaders to be actually able to look at the numbers in front of them and understand what the cost is of not looking after your employees and not, addressing employee well-being and being proactive about it.
Absolutely incredible stuff here. So I'm just going to repeat it. We got listen to, you got to know what the heck your team wants and needs. Start simple and employee attrition. Get those numbers so you know how much it's costing you when people are leaving. Those 3 things are going to get you started in the right direction. Aakanksha, I can't thank you enough for coming to the show today and sharing your expertise. It's so great that you are on this mission to save the workplace of the UAE. You're working throughout the Gulf region as well?
Yes, we are.
Awesome. Well, it's good to have you here in the region. It's great to have you here on the show. And I can't thank you enough for your time, for being here. So thank you so much. I have so much gratitude for everything you do and all the people and employees that you affect, because without a happy workplace, life just seems to just be not so fun. So thanks for bringing it back to a healthy mental state.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rachel, for having me and for giving me time to talk about our mission.
Absolutely. It's important. And I love that she's here. So we're going to be coming back again next month with another Smart Impressions. We're doing it monthly to make sure that you're getting tips so you can impact your business life, every relationship and connection you make. It's so powerful. So empower yourself, empower your surroundings, your community, and let's do it together and make a really big impact, because you are the creator of your destiny. So good luck and have a great day. See you guys again soon. Have a fabulous mental health wellness day.